Anybody who has not had a chance to sign up petition, you live in Wilkes County, please do sign tonight. If you would like an update from Will County Board later, I will give you guys one.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Rick Live. I'm running from Congressional 11. That basically means lots. Some of Channahon, some of New Lenox, some of Joliet, some of Shorewood, some of Plain, all the way up to some of Downers Grove, not all of it. All of Rockdale, though, so you're hearing that, but you can't get signatures there. But anyway, I am still trying to get signatures. I would love to talk to you if you're in the 11th. I'm running against Bill Foster, if you're familiar with that name, and I would love your support, so thank you.
Good evening. So good to see a large group gather together. It's wonderful. I've been here before. I am Diane Harris, and I'm a candidate for state representative of the 86th district. I am the Republican candidate running against Larry Walsh Jr. So. Yeah. Well, like I say, I ran for the seat in 2012, and so we came in short of votes. So this time, just tell one more friend and one more neighbor, because we really need to take that seat. Because you know how what's going on in Illinois, and we need to get those conservatives there. But anyway, I too have my petition here. If you have not signed, please do so. You have to live in Larry Walsh's district. So I'm here, I'll be here for the evening, so I'd like to pass this around. You can sign, if you have not signed, I really would appreciate it. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them later as well. So thank you very much.
If you're not familiar with the signature thing, how many do you have to have?
600.
They have to have 600 signatures or they don't get on the ballot. And they are scrutinized like, well, Ronkowski scrutinizes the ones for our side, so that gives you an idea of what they go through. And they literally check every single signature to see if the address matches the location. I have no idea how they do that because there's thousands and thousands of them, but they do. So you have to actually live in the district, or in the case, a couple of cases, in just anywhere in the county. But they live and die on signatures. So if you haven't signed for somebody, please do, because really, he's a little behind, a little bit. So
You're going to help it tonight. Let's not talk about it, right?
Yeah. But yeah, we actually need more because the challenge, to fund out challenge.
go ahead.
Appreciate it. Hi, I'm Tim Ozinga, part of the Ozinga Concrete family. So I'm running to replace Margot McDermott's seat. She's retiring at the end of her term, so I'm just looking to keep it in the right hands. I'm a handgun guy, so anywhere from my Walther P22 to my S&W 500 and everything in between. I have 4 daughters, the elder 2 of which are getting into riflery and archery. They have a Henry center-fired single-shot 22 that we have a lot of fun with. And the district is Frankfort, Mokina, New Lenox, Homer Glen, and then the southern parts of Orland and Tinley Park. So if you're in those areas, I would appreciate your support. But even if you're not in those areas, the first Democrat person announced that's running for the seat, and she is a self-proclaimed feminist, activist, progressive, leftist, and so it's going to be a fun general election. Yeah, and I noticed on her Facebook wall that she's made comments about reinstating the assault rifle ban. So not the kind of people that we need representing us. So I'd appreciate your support, whether or not you live in the district. I will be a strong voice for everything you care about, because I care about it too.
You can make cement overshoes for her, though, right?
Thanks.
Anything else? want to do
Where
this.
is it?
He's a pro-life Second Amendment guy. He's a Christian guy. He really wants to bring traditional values back to Illinois.
And he was a Marine?
I'm sorry?
Wasn't he? A Marine?
He was, yeah.
Anybody else?
What's the name?
What district is it?
43rd, you're sitting in it.
Oh,
What's the name?
Ireland.
Ben Beerley. Versus who? Ben Beerley.
Beerley.
Yeah, but who was representing? Oh, yes.
I'll sign his too.
No,
Yeah.
That's my guy, Anybody else? Okay. I will just, I don't like to rub salt in wounds. Talk about elections, you remember, I
got a paint that here, but by the time I get to it, get it out.
Just trying to help.
How much we said elections have consequences, you gotta vote. People would go, well, I'm gonna vote my conscience. No, don't vote your conscience, you vote for the right candidate. Democrats take money to vote. You ever notice that? They get told who to vote for, and they vote for that person. We vote our conscience and lose. So, get back behind these people. We need to get them in office. Okay, so Rick is going to talk a little bit. He's got some stats on church meetings. He assures me he's not going to tell you how to do it, but what has happened in the past.
Oh, great, thank you. Well, thank you so much for, I'm so glad to be here. I'm glad to be back with you tonight. I wanted to talk very quickly tonight about an article I saw just a couple of years ago. The article in itself is a couple of years old, but I think the content is still relevant, so that's what I wanted to share with you tonight. It's about church shootings, statistics on church shootings. About 2 years ago, almost to the day, November-ish, the beginning of November, there was a shooting in a Baptist church in Texas, and the shooter, 26 years of age, shoots 26 people, kills 26 people, hurts 20 others. And so that was kind of the impetus of this article. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Before I do, I want to share with you that I had just come from a class on security. I work with the Will County Sheriff's Office. I oversee the security of the courthouse. And I was there in a class about 2 weeks ago. So I took this class. It was in Seattle, Washington. And so I hope it's not for me. I turned mine off. Okay, good. All right. If it is for me, I'm not here. So anyway, we took a security class, and part of the security class, we took a tour of Seattle Children's Hospital. If you're not familiar, Seattle Children's Hospital is not just a children's hospital, it is the big children's hospital in the Seattle area. So we got to take this tour, and the gentleman, the director of security, is kind of walking us around. He says, we do have this procedure for this thing, and we have this for this, and this is... we're this kind of procedure, and we're talking all about these security procedures. And so then he comes back, and we're all in this big room, and there's a room full of security professionals. They're all sitting around, and so he's asking questions on different procedures, and the question comes up, are any of your staff armed? If somebody comes into this hospital, what do you do if somebody comes in shooting? And he says, none of our staff is armed. We teach run, hide, fight. Are you familiar with run, hide, fight? Do you know what that? Just nod your heads. Yes, okay, very good. Run, hide, fight. It's a response that people teach on how to respond to an active, somebody shooting, a shooting threat. You can either run, you can try and hide, or you can fight if you're able to do that. That's what he taught. And he says, that's what we teach at Seattle Children's Hospital. So a gentleman gets up. Of course, all of a sudden, everybody in the room, what? No guns? What's going on here? You can't believe there's no guns. So he said, I'm all for guns. He said, my brother's a police officer. I'm concealed carry, but that's the decision the hospital staff has made. That's where we're at. So everybody's going at it, and this guy in the back, he won't let it go. He keeps going at this. How can you not have guns? How can you not have guns? And the guy says, he's trying to address, it almost gets embarrassing that this guy wouldn't let this go. He's just going on about how can you possibly not have any firearms on this hospital? He said, well, it's not that we haven't addressed this. We have procedures in place. We teach on this. We train on it. The police department is right around the corner. We have drills on this to see how quickly they can get on the property. It's just, we have worked on it. This is not the approach that we've taken. Anybody in here, does anybody in here, just by show of hands, anybody work for security in the Seattle Children's Hospital? Anybody in charge of security? All right, well, neither am I. All right, so I thought I had it. So for our purposes, I don't care. That's their decision. They made that decision. Nobody's coming in saying that we can't carry. That's their decision. That's how they function. When we come to this room, I'm very doubtful, and nobody regards this as a gun club. This is not a club where people come in. Many of you are carrying, many maybe are not. Maybe some of you in this room never leave the house without carrying. Maybe some of you hardly ever carry. That's not the goal of this kind of organization. The Illinois State Rifle Association is here to protect our constitutional rights. That's what they're trying to advance. You have the freedom to carry. If you want to carry, then you carry. And that's what we're trying to ensure in these type of events. That's what we're here, that's what we're mobilized to do. But nobody's saying that you have to carry, and that's what I thought was really odd, that they would kind of keep doing that. So we talk about these kinds of hospitals because these are the new targets, right? Not just hospitals, but body count. Where is the body count? Hospitals. Where else? Movie theaters. Where else? Churches, shopping malls, schools, anywhere. Target-rich environment. That's what a coward would do, right? If I say, hey, listen, you and I are going at it at a certain time at a certain place, that's a challenge. Take my gloves off, remember the old doffing and at movies, you know, oh, okay, this guy, sundown. We're going to square off. That's not what a coward does. A coward's going to try and he just picks any kind of target because any kind of target will do. He's got the control, he can call the time and the location, he can call everything. And so now we're seeing this even in places that we didn't even think. Everybody knows there's a Walmart in Texas. Nobody would have known which one until there was a mass shooting, right? And so now everybody knows where these kinds of shootings are taking place. This brings me back to this church. So now we have a small church in Texas. Small Baptist church. What do? They run, hide, fight. Now we can debate about this, but I have my, I don't know, I guess I have my disagreements. Run, hide, fight is effective. It's useful, but run, hide, fight is really useful when there's real estate, right? If there's, run, hide, fight wouldn't work in this room. That's like everybody trying to hide in this. There's nothing to and be hiding behind each other. That's really what we'd be doing. There's not really any kind of hide. Run, hide, fight is for like a, where there's a school or, where there's hallways, there's rooms, people can disappear. This shooter in Texas, basically everybody's tried to scatter when he started shooting, and then people got under the pews, and that's all he was doing. He was just walking under the pews where people were, they had actually made the target easier for him. They stopped moving, so they just crouched down underneath. And he just started picking people off. And so this is, run, hide, fight did not really work for them. So then we say, okay, well then we have to carry, right? Because people are losing their minds, there's shootings everywhere, we have to get on these crazy. And that's why I think this article is helpful, and I think it's something that you should look up. And you can find it, it's very easy, it's from 2017. It's called How Common Are Church Shootings. You can just look it up in any search engine. If you're looking it up now, please don't look it up now while I'm talking. If you are looking something up, just look to see if you're in the Congressional 11, because I'm going to ask you for your time. That's fine. I'll just presume we're all, adults, and you're looking up to see if, and then you have some permission. So it's the blog is called How Common Are Church Shootings, and the name of the blog is TGC. It's called the Gospel Coalition. I always encourage people to be careful. You don't want to go in there and learn something on accident. All right, so just kind of be careful what you're searching around. But that's the article, and he presents a couple of statistics. And these are the statistics that I think are interesting, and I'm sharing them with you. There's only two numbers, and I'll share them with you now. How common are church shootings? Because now we have, yet again, we've identified another target-rich environment, churches. Most of the people that are there are unsuspecting, they're unaware, they're focused on something else, and so they're not really looking. So, are these places safe? So what they do is they take a look at all of the church shootings that have happened in the United States. And they try to break down some numbers. And there really aren't that many. We see them when they're we see them when they're popularized in the media, right? That's what it's attractive. Look at all these bad guns again here. Here's another shooting here. So they kind of hammer it when there's a mass shooting. Or any kind of body count, any kind of horrible incident like that. And so we're going to see these numbers, but lots of church shootings, not all of them, but lots of them are not related to the church, right? A lot of these incidents take place on parking lot property. So some type of incident has unfolded, and it is unfolded on church property grounds. So already, when somebody says church shooting, it's not really fair to just presume that you're unsafe in a church building. Is everybody connected with what I'm saying here? You say a shooting took place on a church does not make the church unsafe. It could very well be an incident unfolded right there on the parking lot, which is where many of them happen. Many other church shootings are person-specific. So it's not body count. Some type of domestic is taking place, and we know where that Because church meetings are regular, right? They're Sunday morning or they're Wednesday night, so we know where that target is at. So again, so now we have two different categories that we need to be thinking about when we're kind of talking about these church shootings. Aside from that, we're talking about anywhere between 120 and less than 170 in the United States over a 9-year period. So this, again, we're not really talking about that many. What does that come down to? That's an average of about 3 of these a year. On average, 3 church shootings a year. 3. There are over 380,000 different congregations. Think how many churches you passed just on your way here tonight. Think how common are those buildings. How common is it going to be? What is the number? What is the practicality? What is the percentage that a church that you know of is actually going to be involved in a church shooting? Would you say it's high or low? It's low at heart, because when we hear about it, we actually have to look up to see where those places are at. So what the numbers of this article suggest, if you're looking at the percentages, and I think that they're encouraging, you should look at them, the chances of a church being involved in any church building, involved in a church shooting, is 1 in 125,000 chances. 125,000. Basically, that would mean I would have to leave here tonight. I would have to get the entirety of Elwood, all of the people in Elwood. I would have to put them all in a line, and you can do tallest to shortest. That just makes it fun, though. So tallest to shortest, right? And I would have to walk down each person. Hi, how you doing? Hi, how you doing? Every single person in Elwood. How you doing? Hi. When I finish, start again. Hi, how's it going? Hi. All the way down. Hi. You would have to do that 50 times. That's 125,000. That's just not rare. Before you actually hit the shooter, that's just very low. So to say that any kind of church building would be involved and that it's an unsafe place, that's just a very low number, and it's misleading. And it's something that I think we should know, because we're kind of trying to talk to people and talk about the rationality of these type of incidents. Now, I've just talked about a church building. What's the percentage? What's the odds that somebody would actually be at that service? I mean, services don't just meet on Sunday mornings anymore, do they? You guys know of services that are Wednesday morning mass, Thursday night Bible study, prayer meeting on Saturday night. I mean, so all kinds, many of them happen. So what are the odds that anyone in this room, anybody, what are the odds that you would be at the church service where the shooting took place?
573,600.
Super close. If you're dealing in negatives. So you're a little off. It's 1 in, you got the 500 part. It's 1 in 6,552,000. It's a number you can find the math is broken down in this article. That's why I encourage you to read it. It's really interesting. So basically, what does that mean? So for people to say, hey, look at all these church shootings are happening. Really, all of these church shootings? Do you know what the odds of these happening? The odds are this. You would have to attend a church service twice a day. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. When you got all the way to Saturday, that's how many services, everybody? 14. The math gets a little more complicated. I just want to make sure they're with me. Okay. So you get 14. You do it again. Remember, we're working to 6.5 million. So you would have to do that for basically 8,000 years before you actually hit the service where there was a church shooting. The odds are low. So I don't buy this hype. I don't think so what are we talking? Do you see how these numbers, you're kind of cut through that? This is why I think that you should know these kinds of things, because part of what we're trying to do here is equip people. We want to educate people. We want them to be rational about these kinds of things. We don't want to just kind of feed into this hype and this media nonsense that we hear. And we say, look, the odds are very low. So then here comes the response. Oh, so then you're saying we shouldn't carry firearms. I mean, it hardly ever happens. And we can do the same thing with schools and movie theaters. I mean, it is bad when it happens. Let's go back then to what I said, what is our original point here? It's not a gun club. We're here for the freedom to carry a firearm. That's really what should be attractive to you. If you want to carry a firearm, fine. If you don't. And that's really what the argument is. So to say that we shouldn't carry a firearm just because the numbers are too low, that's misleading. That's a terrible argument, and it falls apart. You should be able to see that. How many of you, just by show of hands, on your way here tonight, got a flat tire in your car? Okay, how many of you, by show of hands, have ever had a flat tire in your car? Okay, everybody. But it didn't happen tonight. Now, it may happen when you're leaving, and I know you're like, curse that Rick Live. You talking about how did you do that? How could you possibly? But what do we know about cars? They all have spares. Why? Because if you lose one of the tires, the car is useless, right? It's a very expensive radio. It doesn't do anything. The car is useless. So we make cars, and we put spare tires. I'll bet you anything, if I sold you a car right now, and I said, hey, just so you know, there's no spare tire, you would be like, okay, I got to make that a priority. I need to get a spare tire on my car. And it hardly ever happens. I could probably go around there. We all have seasons where maybe the neighbor is redoing their roof. And so you're like, yeah, you're running over nails or construction. You got, I just got another, it just happened again. But think about how many times you actually have a flat tire. It's very rare, and yet you're always prepared for it, because when it's bad, it really is bad. How many of you have a will? Sure, a living will. Why? Well, you're only going to die one time. I mean, what do you, yeah, because when it's over, it's over. Does anybody know the death ratio in this country? It's 1 per person. I'll just tell you. So you want to be ready, because when it's over, it's over, and you can't take any more steps. And that's why it's attractive to carry a firearm, because when it's bad, then it really is bad. And I want some freedom. Not that everybody has to carry a firearm, I'm not saying that. As a matter of fact, I know lots of people that shouldn't. I have nieces and nephews that they can't get their grip on. Maybe sometime Uncle Rick will show them, but not now. We think a lot of people. So to say that everybody has to carry a firearm, that doesn't work. And to say that nobody should, that doesn't work either. We still want to kind of advance this idea that we have the right to do that, and we have the freedom to do that, but we want to cut through that hype. And so just in closing, I'll encourage you to do that. Look at this article. I think it's very interesting. You can send it to people when it kind of comes up. And you can talk about any kind of mass shooting. Again, the name of the article is How Common Are Church Shootings? So you can look the Gospel Coalition. TGC, you can just Google that, you'll be able to find it. So with that, I'll turn it back to our host tonight. Thank you, everybody, for your...
I'm curious, now that he brings it up, how many of you have ever talked to your pastor about having firearms in a church? So some of you have. What kind of responses did you get?
Negative. Still put the anti-gun sticker up on the doors.
We're just advertising. That's lovely. Something else?
Yeah, I mean, one of the church that I went to before the church I went to now were very much aware of the threat, and had people, some of them were off-duty police officers or other folks that were at every service.
When I started going to Gretchen's church, we had this really, really cool pastor. He was just really cool. And he wanted to go to lunch. You know, he got sized me up, I guess, probably wanted to be short of it. And so we had about a 2.5-hour lunch, and it was really enjoyable. But we got around to what exactly is it that you do? And that, you know, I was raised in the Catholic Church. If I'd have said to a priest that I teach people to shoot, I'd probably been excommunicated on the spot. I said, well, I do a lot of things, sort of hemming and hawing, but it eventually got around to I have a shooting school. And he goes, oh, that's interesting. He goes, so you like have a gun and stuff? And I go, yeah, I have a gun and stuff. Yeah. And he said, I don't have one. I've never really seen the need for it. And I said, let me ask you a question. We're sitting here having lunch. If somebody came through that door right now and had a gun in their hand or pointing at you, would you want me to stop them? It was about a 1 nanosecond delay, and he goes, yes. And I go, welcome to the club. And there's a number of us, actually, who carry in church. I know he knows it. There's no question about it. In fact, I think everybody probably does it, most people. And we just keep an eye out. And it was a lot simpler than I would have never approached him, but it turned out to be very simple. Yeah.
I am the pastor of a local home fellowship congregation, and I carry sometimes in our services, which are in our home. And the pastor over me, who has a Messianic Jewish congregation in Rolling Meadows, he said, it's fine if you carry it in our congregation here. I'm not comfortable doing it myself, I'd probably shoot myself in the foot. I thought, wow, you're not really that careless, I don't think. And on next Tuesday, I'm going to be talking to a dozen or more Messianic Jewish rabbis and pastors about the needs for us to carry and for our congregants to carry. And they gave me like 10 minutes at a presentation. for the Chicagoland Messianic Jewish leaders.
You know, all of those church shootings that have happened, I would guess, and I think it would be a good guess, that not a single person in any one of those churches was expecting to have a gun go off in their church that morning. So you can say to everybody who's in a church, or everybody who's in a school, or everybody who's in any kind of a gathering place where historically guns aren't allowed, making it a killing field, you can say that none of those people typically go to work or go to church or go to school thinking they're going to get killed in that place that day. Because it is so ridiculously rare. But it's ridiculously rare for every church, including all the ones that have had it happen. And I can't criticize the guy, but you remember in the last shooting where a deputy rolled on the scene and then kind of hunkered down behind the car and didn't go in? I couldn't have done that.
He's no longer the police anymore.
No, I know. Every time you hear a shot, it's some kid getting killed. How could you wake up in the morning and look at yourself in the mirror if that happened? I couldn't do it. So the thing that I just always think about, when I look at my gun and I go, oh, I want to bring it there or not, I think of, what was her name? Gracia Huff, Texas? Susanna Huff. I don't know, if you're not familiar with that, this is a woman who brought her mother and father to a Luby's cafeteria for dinner. And there was a sign on the door, no gun. She had concealed carry, and she left the gun in her car. She was not more than probably 25 yards from that gun outside when some psycho drove his car through the door and started killing people. She watched both of her parents get shot to death in front of her. And her gun was just probably 25 yards away. Can you imagine how it's bad enough to see that happen, but to see that happen knowing your gun was in a car and you didn't bring it with you, that'd really mess me up. So I don't have a point. But
can I make just a quick suggestion? The article that I wanted to share with you this evening were specific numbers on church shootings, but I'd like to make a quick suggestion, maybe just for at whatever congregation you may represent. If you're a part of a church and you're connecting with what I'm saying, I'm going to make a comment that is non-gun, not anti-gun. I'm just going to make a comment that's non-gun. If you are up against some resistance, if you're saying, hey, look, we should carry, we should do that, I think is a very big step to take people that attend. Now we're dealing with your own congregation, your own flock, to say, hey, listen, we should all start carrying guns. That's to start to move people to combat warrior like that. That's a very big step. But you can do little things in between. You can take little small steps. So a suggestion that I make when I talk to people is say, hey, look, we're going to do a little something for the community. We're going to teach people CPR. Okay, now you're starting to equip the congregants, because what you want are people who do things. That's really what you need. You want people who say, okay, there's a problem. I know how to do something. I'm going to move towards whatever's happening. So if you can start training people like that, now when you say, hey, listen, if you're not doing anything on Friday, we're going to a gun range. Okay, so now you've kind of got people on the ramp. Hey, look it's attractive, I can do stuff. But to just say, hey, listen, we should start carrying guns, there's gun shootings, that's kind of a hard sell. And so there's a lot of in-between steps like that. So I've mentioned this before, and so I just recommend it to you. If you're kind of feeling that resistance, say, oh, okay, cool. Hey, are you okay with, I was teaching maybe a medic class. Just show some people, we're going to buy some tourniquets, we'll just show people how to do that. We're just learning how to stop bleeding. You just don't want complete victims here, right? Oh, how about some bandages? Let's just do something like that. Okay, now you're kind of doing stuff, and now you've got a little bit of a growth. So anyway, just a suggestion. If you're contemplating, you're thinking like, how can we go from here? What can I do? That may be an avenue.
The other thing I'll point out is, all the years that we've been doing the radio show and I've been involved in this, listening to anti-gun people talk, I finally come to the conclusion, and probably everybody figured this out before me, but I came to the conclusion, there's really two types of anti-gun people. There are the types who know exactly what the truth is, the Bloombergs and those people. and they purposely, intentionally subverted and put out basically lies. And then there's the majority of people that honestly don't know, and they take them at face value. They take the talking points and they just accept them. And I'll tell you that because I've been interviewed 5 times in the past roughly year and a half by the Chicago Tribune. And they sent, the very first time they sent a woman out who wasn't rabidly anti-gun, but was definitely anti-gun, and certainly we shouldn't have military weapons of war and all that. So I had her meet me out at the club, her and the for the Tribune. And we're talking, she's interviewing me, asking me questions, and I said, have you ever shot an AR-15? No. Have you ever held an AR-15? No. Have you ever been in the same room as an AR-15? No. Well, you are now, whether you know it or not. And so I said, let me just, non-politically, let me just show it to you. And it's not loaded, and everything will be fine. And I went through the Blair Holt assault weapon ban, which has that list, if you add this, is illegal, right? And I said, okay, so here's my favorite trusty AR-15. It's a legal firearm. I buy this aftermarket handle, and I put it on a rail, and suddenly have an illegal weapon. And she goes, that doesn't make sense. And I go, welcome to the club. It doesn't. So we went through the whole thing, and I said, let's go shoot it. We went out and shot it, both of them, her and the videographer. And her response was, after shooting it, this is not at all what I thought it was going to be. This is fun. Had the same thing, if you recall, a couple of months ago, a bunch of high school seniors from Wabanti High School put together a town hall. It was kind of taken over by liberals, and it was when Mike Wiseman, one of our board members, said, you gotta love it. He raised his hand and they called on it and he said, I have a question. He goes, you're telling me that you plan to confiscate all AR-15s unless we pay a fine. And if we pay the fine, we can keep it. And she goes, Julie Morrison, right. She goes, yes. And he goes, well, can you explain what the money has to do with the danger of the gun? Yeah. And it just like, she was like a deer in headlights. And then she said, I think you've just made up my mind. We're just going to confiscate all of them. I wish I had been there, because I would have immediately said, you're why we have a Second Amendment. You are one elected official, and you're telling me you're going to confiscate all our guns. That's a bunch of work. That group of teenagers, they're high school seniors that started that particular event, I wrote them an email. I couldn't go to that, I wasn't there, and I didn't know these kids, but I wrote them an email. And I said, I'm inviting you to come out to my club, and I will go in a non-political thing. I'm not going to argue what's right or wrong. I'm just going to introduce you to the thing and let you see what it is and how it works and all of that. And then if you want it, you can shoot it. They all came out. I had 5 of them. 5. They all came out. And we went through the whole thing, did the same thing with the broom handle. In fact, that guy goes, well, that's stupid. And I go, welcome to the club. And then we went out shooting, and they had a great time. They just had a great time. And I noticed that they organized another thing not long ago, and there were Republicans in it too. There were gun people on it. So it swayed them enough when they heard the truth. It swayed them enough to open up their mind to be at least equal. And the same thing with the journalist. They sent her back 4 more times. She has never, ever misquoted me. Now, 2 times she just used me as background. I wasn't named. But she's never misquoted me. She's always represented my views. Not always agreed with them, but that's editorial. She has a right to do that. But I was never misquoted. She calls me now when she wants information, even if I'm not going to be in the article. And so what I'm saying is there are people who write off anti-gun people. They won't talk to them. They won't do anything. And I think that's a serious mistake, because most of the people that you have access to talk to that are anti-gun probably just don't know the facts. They just have bought what they're told from above. And every person you convert is one more person. So anyway, that's my thoughts. Any questions or anything at all? For Rick? Okay. All right, we're going to draw for the gun. So.